Open up social media right now, and just search the word yoga. You know exactly what you're going to
Oh,
see.
yeah, the aesthetic.
Right? It's a very specific, picture-perfect aesthetic. Like,
Yeah.
you've got someone in flawless athletic wear sitting on this pristine mat on a beach somewhere.
Usually holding a bright green juice.
Exactly. Always the green juice. And they're projecting this aura of just um, strict, unyielding dietary purity. It is the modern, highly curated image of a yogi.
It really is.
And packaged right alongside that image is this, well, this unspoken rule, right? If you want to truly achieve that level of inner peace, you have to be strictly vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah, it's an incredibly pervasive image, and honestly, it creates this really harsh binary expectation for people.
Equally.
There's this lingering sense of guilt that if you are, I don't know, eating a turkey sandwich after your morning meditation practice, you are fundamentally doing it wrong. We like our wellness categories to be clean, absolute, and usually quite restrictive.
But when you actually start looking into the historical realities of these ancient practices, that pristine, rigid image kind of just shatters completely.
It really does.
So today, our mission in this deep dive is to figure out if you actually have to be a strict vegetarian to practice yoga. We are unpacking some fascinating insights from an experienced yoga and meditation teacher and energy healer who runs the platform The Blind Muslim Yogi.
Which is a great source, by the way.
It is. And we are going to look at how the ancient science of yoga and diet crashes headfirst into our modern 21st century reality.
And that collision between ancient tradition and modern life is, that's where the most valuable insights lie.
Right.
Because the relationship between what we eat and our mental clarity is so much more nuanced and honestly far more forgiving than what the modern wellness industry portrays.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it's less about dietary dogma and much more about the physical mechanics of energy.
So to everyone listening right now, whether you are an advanced meditator or maybe someone who just likes a good yoga flow to stretch out your back.
Or just someone curious about how your lunch impacts your brain fog.
Exactly. This deep dive is going to relieve a lot of pressure for you. We are tossing out the strict dietary guilt and looking at the actual biology. So let's start at the very beginning. Where does this whole yogis must be vegetarian rule even originate?
So to understand the origins, we really have to look back at the roots of yoga in the Vedantic culture of ancient India.
Okay.
We are talking about a highly agricultural society, and a central defining feature of that society was the massive, massive herds of cattle they maintained.
Right. Cattle were basically the backbone of their way of life.
Precisely. So because they had these large herds, they had an absolute abundance of dairy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so when we talk about the traditional vegetarian yoga diet from the ancient Vedantic perspective, it was absolutely not the modern vegan diet we see on Instagram today. It heavily, heavily included dairy.
Wait, heavily?
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Milk, butter, ghee. These were used extensively to supplement their daily meals and provide dense caloric energy.
But hold on, I'm struggling to reconcile this a bit. Because if dairy was the original yogic superfood, why is it suddenly treated like a villain in modern wellness?
That's a great question.
I mean, if the ancient masters relied on it so heavily to reach enlightenment, why shouldn't we just do exactly what they did?
Well, that is the danger of just, copy-pasting an ancient practice directly into the modern world without any context.
Right.
The reality is our bodies and our environments have drastically changed. The insights we're exploring from the source note that today we are dealing with widespread inflammatory conditions.
Oh, sure.
Our baseline physical states are heavily burdened by chronic stress, modern anxiety, and an unprecedented rise in autoimmune issues.
Yeah, everyone seems to be dealing with something.
Exactly. So when a body is already existing in a state of chronic inflammation, introducing modern industrialized dairy can actually exacerbate those problems. It triggers an immune response.
So what was basically medicine for an ancient agricultural worker might act like poison for an overworked office employee today.
Exactly. For many people today, restricting or removing dairy can be highly therapeutic. It actively helps in reducing systemic inflammation, including the brain inflammation that is so closely associated with chronic stress and brain fog.
It makes me think of maintaining a 1920s vintage car.
Oh, I like this.
I mean, on paper, it sounds incredibly romantic, right? You picture yourself driving down the coast in this gorgeous classic machine using the original mechanics.
Right.
But in reality, If you try to use that vintage car for your daily commute in a modern city, it's a total nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
It breaks down in stop-and-go traffic, it's impractically expensive to fix, and good luck finding the original, unrefined fuel it was built to run on.
That analogy hits the nail on the head, especially when we talk about the fuel. I mean, the sheer economics of trying to eat exactly like an ancient yogi today is a massive roadblock.
And I really want to push back on the wellness industry's assumption here, because they constantly sell us the idea that ancient automatically means accessible or natural for everyone. But you can't just walk out your front door today and forage the fresh, untouched fruits and vegetables of ancient Vedantic times.
You absolutely cannot. The vast majority of our food supply today is industrialized, heavily processed, or genetically modified to some degree.
Yeah.
If you want to eat purely organic, non-genetically modified produce and ethically raised organic meats, essentially trying to mimic that pristine ancient purity, you have to belong to a financial bracket that only a tiny fraction of the global population occupies.
It becomes luxury wellness.
Exactly.
The cost of maintaining that specific hyper-pure lifestyle is completely out of reach for everyday people.
Which is why the practical application is just so important. Insisting that a person working a modern 9-to-5 job must adopt a strict ancient vegetarian diet ignores the realities of our modern food systems and the modern stressors on our bodies.
So if mimicking the exact ancient diet is not only incredibly expensive but potentially inflammatory for our modern bodies, what were those ancient yogic masters actually trying to achieve with their food choices in the first place? Because it clearly wasn't just about general physical fitness. The insights from the blind Muslim yogi reveal they were aiming for something called frequency.
Yes. And this is where we have to correct a major historical misconception.
Okay, lay it on me.
We tend to assume that in ancient times, meat was universally forbidden for anyone practicing yoga. But from a Vedantic perspective, meat eating was actually not forbidden for the general public.
Wait, really?
Yeah. There were clear allowances for people to consume meat based on their roles in society.
So the idea that every single ancient yogi was a strict vegetarian is just a historical myth.
It is a myth. The severe, absolute dietary restrictions were reserved for a very specific, highly limited class of people.
Who were they?
These were individuals dedicating their entire existence, like 24 hours a day, to developing higher frequencies. They were aiming to cultivate higher intellectual and mental capacities so they could operate on the highest advisory levels in their society, and to recite incredibly complex incantations.
Let me stop you right there, because when you say frequency, my mind immediately goes to, like, mystical wellness jargon.
Right, the good vibes.
Yeah. Are we just talking about good vibes and crystals?
Yeah.
Or is there an actual physiological meaning behind this? What does frequency actually mean biologically?
It is entirely physiological. When we talk about frequency in this context, we were talking about the calibration of the central nervous system.
Okay.
We are talking about measurable brainwave states like shifting from a highly alert, stressed beta state into deep, restorative theta or gamma states. We are talking about cellular metabolic rates.
Wow.
Yeah. So for the nervous system to resonate at these specific, highly sensitive states, it required extreme physiological purity so the electrical signals in the body weren't interrupted by digestive stress.
Okay, so we are talking about the absolute top 1% of practitioners here. The people whose literal full-time job was to maintain this highly sensitive, altered neurological state.
Correct. And for this specific class, the restrictions went far beyond just avoiding meat. They were completely forbidden from eating onions, they were completely forbidden from eating garlic, and they were severely restricted from consuming any highly spicy foods.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
No garlic, no onions, no spices. I mean, I have a hypothesis here.
Let's hear it.
It sounds to me like they were just punishing themselves to prove their devotion. Was this just an extreme exercise in asceticism? Like a psychological test to see how much sensory joy they could deprive themselves of? Because that sounds like a recipe for an incredibly bland life.
It's very easy to view it through that lens from our modern perspective. I totally get that. But the ancient reasoning was purely about biological physics. It was not about moral punishment or sensory deprivation.
Really?
Yeah. Certain substances, even natural plant-based ones like onions, garlic, and heavy spices, contain compounds that physically agitate the nervous system.
So it's not that garlic is evil, it's that it literally acts as a stimulant.
Exactly. Take garlic, for instance. It contains compounds like allicin, which are incredibly potent.
Right.
While fantastic for general immunity, For a person trying to keep their nervous system in a state of absolute glass-like stillness, that stimulation is a disruption. It lowers the specific bodily frequency or deep calm they were trying to cultivate.
That makes total sense. It's less about morality and more about protecting their internal energy reserves from any unnecessary chemical stimulation.
Exactly.
Which leads us to the core biological theory regarding meat, and this is where the mechanics of energy get really fascinating. Why is animal-based food believed to hinder spiritual awakening, specifically when someone is just starting out?
This brings us to the fast-decaying food theory. And this is where ancient energetic principles perfectly align with modern biology.
I will love when that happens.
Right, so when you consume meat, which in this context is dead animal tissue as opposed to fresh, raw plant fiber, it decays much faster in your gastrointestinal tract.
Did you break that down for us? What does decays faster actually mean inside the body?
It comes down to transit time and the chemical breakdown of proteins versus complex plant carbohydrates.
Okay.
Meat lacks fiber, meaning it moves differently through the digestive tract. As it sits in the warm environment of the gut, it begins to putrefy or decay rapidly.
Yikes.
Yeah, and this fast decay leads to a rapid proliferation of bacteria in the gut microbiome. Now, some of that bacteria is a natural part of digestion, but a lot of it is viewed by the body as a potential threat.
And when there's a sudden influx of bacteria, the body's defense systems have to step up.
Precisely. Faster decay equals a heavier bacterial load. And here is the crucial energy equation. Your immune system has to deal with that bacteria.
Right.
To manage and fight off this sudden influx, your immune system has to mobilize. And mobilizing the immune system requires a massive expenditure of cellular energy.
Okay, so think of your body's total daily energy like your smartphone battery.
Ooh, perfect.
When you sit down to meditate and try to develop this deep life force energy, you are basically trying to launch a really demanding high-level application on your phone. But if you've just eaten foods that decay quickly and flood your gut with bacteria, your immune system kicks into high gear. Suddenly, your immune system becomes this massive, invisible background app that is just chewing through your battery life.
That is a brilliant visualization. The immune system is incredibly energy intensive. And when you are in the initial stages of stepping into higher spiritual practices, you haven't built up a massive reserve of life force energy yet.
You're running on low battery to begin with.
Exactly. Every single millimeter of your energy is required. You need 100% battery power directed toward your practice.
And I think every single person listening to this knows exactly what that energy drain feels like. Think about how you feel at 2 o'clock in the afternoon sitting at your desk after eating a heavy, meat-dense lunch.
Oh, the food coma.
Yes. You get that intense sluggishness. That isn't just you being tired, right? That is literally your immune system and digestive tract diverting your body's battery power away from your brain and down into your gut.
Exactly. You physically cannot reach a deep, transcendent meditative state if 40% of your available energy is currently being diverted to your intestines to manage the aftermath of a heavy meal.
Wow.
Your energy is tied up in immune defense rather than being available for the cultivation of spiritual awareness. This is why, in the initial stages of training, students are heavily encouraged to reduce meat consumption and stick to a plant-based diet. It frees up that physical energy so it can be converted into spiritual energy.
But this brings up a massive question. If meat drains the vital battery life and forces the immune system into overdrive, does that mean every successful high-level yogi in history eventually had to become a strict vegan?
Well,
I mean, if you eat a burger, are you permanently locked out of the advanced stages of yoga?
it's a logical assumption, but history delivers a massive plot twist here that totally upends that idea.
A plot twist. I love a historical plot twist.
Yeah, so to understand this, we have to look at one of the most prominent, revered historical figures in modern yoga, Swami Vivekananda.
Okay, for those who might not be familiar with yoga history, who is Swami Vivekananda and why is he so important?
Swami Vivekananda was a monumental figure. He was one of the primary thought leaders and yoga to the Western world.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, he famously spoke at a major conference gathering in the early 1900s, around 1902. He was a master practitioner. And importantly, he came from a community and a cultural background in India that were strictly, uncompromisingly vegetarian.
So he is the purest of the pure, a foundational pillar of yoga.
He was, yet while he was traveling and teaching in the West, it was discovered that he was eating steak.
Wait, steak? Not just quietly eating a piece of fish to get by. but a beefsteak.
A beefsteak.
But that is completely, absolutely forbidden by Hindu culture and law.
It was scandalous. Even today, consuming beef is against the law in many contexts in India due to the sacred nature of the cow we discussed earlier. But he ate it.
How did he justify that?
Well, when he was questioned about this massive break from tradition, his reasoning was incredibly pragmatic. He explained that he was operating in a different culture, in a different climate, and he adapted his physical diet to the environment he was currently in.
To me, this is the most liberating takeaway for anyone listening. We are talking about a founding father of Western yoga, an incredibly advanced master of meditation, and he's eating a steak.
Yeah.
Because if he can adapt his diet to his environment and still maintain his mastery, it completely destroys the idea that dietary dogma is a strict prerequisite for enlightenment. It officially shifts the focus of yoga away from rigid, punitive rules.
It proves that the human system is adaptable. The insights from the blind Muslim yogi are very clear on this sequence. In the beginning, yes, you restrict your diet to conserve energy. But once you are established in your practice, once your life force energy is deeply cultivated and robust, your battery is large enough to handle different inputs. You can slowly start introducing a balanced omnivore diet again, and you will find it doesn't destabilize your frequency. Your system is strong enough to process it without crashing.
So if strict vegetarianism isn't the ultimate law, what is the actual practical advice for the listener today?
Yeah.
If we want to support our physical energy and our mental health without driving ourselves crazy with restrictions, how should we be eating?
The recommendation for 99.999% of people is wonderfully grounded. It's essentially an 80-20 balanced omnivore diet.
Okay, 80-20.
The core goal is that 80% of your food intake should be less processed, unrefined whole foods.
And the other 20% is just life.
Exactly.
It's convenience, it's travel, it's having dinner with your friends without interrogating the waiter about the garlic content. It's the reality of the 21st century.
Exactly. You approach it responsibly from a scientific perspective, avoiding highly processed synthetic foods when you can, because biologically, those cause the most immune distress.
Makes sense.
But beyond that, you try to include fresh salads and raw vegetables wherever possible. Specifically, the goal is to aim optimally for 10 fruits and vegetables a day, but at an absolute minimum, 5 a day.
We always hear the classic 5-a-day rule. But there's a specific strategy to how you choose them, right?
Oh.
It's not just eating 5 apples.
Right. It's the rainbow approach. When you are sourcing your fruits and vegetables, you want to focus on a wide variety of colors. Something green, something red, something yellow, something orange.
You are intentionally drawing from the full visible spectrum of the plant kingdom.
Yes.
I want to dig into the biology of that for a second. We hear eat the rainbow all the time in wellness marketing, but from an energetic or biological standpoint, why does the color of a pepper actually matter to my life force energy?
It matters because those colors represent different phytochemicals, antioxidants, and micronutrients. The pigment that makes a tomato red does a completely different cellular maintenance job in your body than the pigment that makes spinach green.
Oh, wow.
By eating the rainbow, you are providing your cells with a diverse toolkit to repair themselves. When your cells have the exact nutrients they need, your immune system doesn't have to work as hard. You reduce the biological burden, which keeps your internal battery fully charged for your mental and spiritual pursuits.
I love that. It's not about restricting what you can't have. It's about intentionally adding what your body needs. Add the colors, add the whole foods, and knowing that you can absolutely experience the highest levels of mental clarity and meditation while eating this balanced omnivore diet is a game changer.
Truly.
You do not have to be a monk living in a cave on roots and water to find inner peace.
So true. When you look at the entirety of what we've unpacked today, from the ancient Vedantic cowherds to the fast-decaying food theory, all the way to Swami Vivekananda eating a steak, what is the most important shift in perspective for you?
Honestly, it's the profound relief from guilt. The wellness space weaponizes guilt.
Oh, absolutely.
We are made to feel guilty if we eat dairy, guilty if we eat meat, guilty if our vegetables aren't perfectly organic and locally sourced. But the overarching message here is so clear. Do not feel negative about your food choices.
Yeah.
Every single person's situation is completely different. Maybe you're fighting an illness and need a specific dense diet to recover. Maybe you're traveling and just need to eat what is available. The goal is to enjoy a wholesome, varied diet without the crushing, persistent stress of perfection.
And stress is the worst thing for you anyway.
Exactly. Because let's be real, if the psychological stress of trying to be a perfect vegan is causing massive spikes of cortisol and inflammation in your body, you are completely defeating the biological purpose of the diet in the first place.
That is the ultimate synthesis. We have to look at the whole picture, not just isolated rules. Yoga, at its core, is meant to be inclusive and entirely adaptable to your current circumstances.
Right.
Whether you are an omnivore, a vegan, or somewhere in between, the goals are practical. Manage your baseline inflammation. Understand that heavily processed or fast-decaying foods will temporarily drain your immune energy, and strive for a colorful, mostly unprocessed diet to keep your battery charged.
It's about being incredibly practical in the modern world while still respecting the ancient underlying mechanics of how our bodies process energy.
And understanding those mechanics of energy actually brings up a broader, incredibly important point.
Hmm?
If we accept this ancient premise that our physical energy can be severely drained by inputs that decay quickly, flood our system with garbage, and force our immune systems into overdrive, it makes you look critically at everything else we consume.
Oh, wow. Yeah. If the ancient masters recognized that fast-decaying physical foods block our life force energy, what about our modern mental diets?
Precisely. We spend immense amounts of time and money worrying about the absolute purity of the food on our plates, but we completely ignore the digital junk food we consume every single day.
Think about doom scrolling.
Yes,
Think about the outrage bait on social media or 24-hour toxic news cycles. That is the ultimate fast-decaying input.
it really is.
You consume it, it provides zero nutritional value, it instantly rots in your mind, and your psychological immune system has to expend massive amounts of energy just to fight off the anxiety, anger, and negativity it creates.
It acts as a massive, invisible drain on your mental battery. Before you even close your eyes to attempt to meditate or find your inner peace, your energy is already depleted. If a heavy, fast-decaying meal drains your physical battery, chronic digital negativity completely drains your psychological one.
That is a phenomenal point to leave you with today. The next time you see that picture-perfect Instagram yogi with their pure green juice, remember true wellness isn't just about avoiding a certain food group to fit an ancient stereotype. It's about managing all of your energy, both physical and mental.
Exactly.
So as you go about your day, ask yourself, what are you feeding your mind that might be quietly draining your battery? Until next time, keep digging deeper.